up, y'all? It's your boy Gremlin back again at Clanime, where we talk, debate, and relate anything and everything anime. Y'all already know my boy Zach over here.
What's up? It's good to be back, y'all.
When we don't have the full squad together for the weekend, we're gonna do something called drafting the Triad. Zach just explained it best, but I'm gonna try my best to summarize it, and then I'm gonna let him add his flair. This is a new segment we're gonna do where we're potentially drafting 3 characters from a specific anime that we resonate with the backstory and premise as a whole. So it's not a top list, it's a resonation list.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to explain it. I like that. It's a resonation list. It's like how you resonate with the characters, you know?
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it.
So basically how it's going to go is we just name the anime, and the first 3 that pop up in our head, we're going to take a deep dive into why they were the first ones that popped into my head. So with me, it's Gaara, Neji, and Shikamaru. Those are my 3.
I'll go with Naruto, obviously. Alright. We've got Itachi. Y'all may say that's basic, but y'all have to let me explain. And then Minato.
Okay. Alright. I like how this is looking. Now, we get to really dive in. You had to ask, actually. Did you say Itachi because he's right there?
No, I did not say Itachi because he's right there. Itachi has been one of my favorites whenever he showed up because for one...
Last year, I did a full breakdown on Itachi. You're going to have to check that one out too.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
I'll have to look
we got to go ahead. We got to start with, obviously, the main character of Naruto. So go ahead, and why do you resonate with Naruto, and why was he your first thought besides the name of the show?
Whenever I first watched Naruto, you know, I was around 7, 8 years old. You know, I'd watch Dragon Ball Z. You know, Dragon Ball Z was good and everything, but it wasn't making me want to go out and watch more anime. And then came along Naruto. My friend Ruben ended up introducing me to it. He told me, he's like, hey, you really like Naruto if you like Dragon Ball Z. So I watched the first episode because I ended up going to the FYE store at East Town Mall, and I found the first disc. Whenever I first watched it, okay, I wasn't the smartest kid in school. I had really bad ADHD problems. And then, you know, I watched the first episode. You know, I seen Naruto as myself. You know, he couldn't stay in class. He was constantly goofing off, trying to find some way to liven it up, make school interesting.
Yeah.
And that's something, you know, I would try to do as a kid. And, you know, the more I got in trouble, you know, I wasn't like, I was looking for parental acceptance. I still have my mom. But at the same time, you know, like, I always looked at it, you know, like, there's so many other kids that, you know, they talk about, like, how do I make sure I'm talked about, like, even if it is as the troublemaker. And then Naruto going through, you know, you seen Naruto's loyalty. You had him ready to jump in and beat the shit out of Neji in the tuning exams.
He has a high respect for others.
He has a lot of respect for others, and, you know, he respects hard work. And, you know, his entire character, nothing came easy to Naruto. You see the work he put in, and that's something I liked about Naruto, was he was a character who put in the hard work. Like, I am the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox. You know, I'm not gonna have y'all look at me, oh, that's the Nine-Tailed Fox. No, this is Naruto Uzumaki. That's just something I really liked about his character. My older cousin was just like Sasuke, a black-haired kid, and he was calm. He didn't think much of me at the time, so, you know, I always was... I was always butting heads with him, and, you know, he was always better than me. So, you know, I was always working harder. I was always trying to sabotage him.
Around here.
Why do you resonate?
I'm joking. So Naruto was actually, you know, I do resonate with Naruto. I'm energetic. I'm outgoing. That's like where most people get it, and that was the way I guarded my trauma And like the way I see the Jinchuriki is trauma. I can resonate with because of the personality and the way he shields his true emotions. But when you take the flip side, Gaara is the identical version, same birthday, same basic concept. But he took it and went the other way. He was like a natural with everything, but he's just like, he never questions what people think of him. He just lets it ride. Like, I want you to be scared of me, because if you're scared of me, I don't have to defend myself. And like when you see his story progress, he finds out that he was lied about the whole time, and everything he was told was a lie. And I resonated with that. With Naruto, I saw him more as like, in the beginning, he was sheltering himself through humor and acting out, whereas Gaara was just like you said it best outside, and I'm gonna get your opinion on it as well, but like when we both agreed that it's Naruto is the way you portray yourself, and Gaara is the intrusive thoughts that you feel. That just speaks the whole show, and then even into Boruto, where they're both still Hokage and Kazekage, but they have that bond, and I think that's really the story behind it, is because like if you take the whole two spirits of them, yin and yang, and I think Kishimoto wrote that perfectly. Like,
yes, Kishimoto done perfect. See, I give you that with Gaara. You know, like you said, he's the intrusive son. He coming in, you know, he looking at Sasuke and he's like, I'm going to fight you. I was like, okay. We see Lee. I was like, you know, maybe Sasuke's not all that special. You know, Lee does his thing. And then,
Lee,
you know,
Lee.
and then versus Gaara. This is what really cemented
It was that
Gaara.
total pole.
What? Quarter, half of the fight, my man's is just standing there. Doof, 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 doof. You can't touch me. You can't touch me. I'm sitting here thinking, I was like, how is anybody gonna beat this man's like, how? And then
the
Lee
weights.
drops the weights, and I was like, what's the weights gonna do? Like,
Bro,
I'm having the same thoughts as tomorrow.
It's still one of the top 5 fights in like pretty much any article you look at. It's still going to be one of the top 5 fights.
Yes.
But that's not why we're picking Gaara.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely not. Because then, you know, like
It's
you
the
said,
story after.
and then he was the younger one, but, you know, it was the older brother thread. You know, he had the older brother persona because he had to adopt that, you know, like.
And he was the youngest. Like, he was the
Tamari
youngest.
and Kankuro did not understand what it meant to have their life threatened. He did.
Yeah.
He 100%.
He grew up with it.
He grew up with
the
it.
transition from where Gaara actually left off, and after the village war and everything else, not really a war, the invasion, attack, whatever. After Orochimaru's thing was done, was the first time you actually saw Itachi. I did a full breakdown on why I believe Itachi's goated, but we're going to go ahead and transition into him being your second pick. You know, for me, right there shows, yeah, he, like, after you find out the whole double agent point, it made sense to me. I was just like, okay, he went back to check on his brother. Mm-hmm. He didn't go, like, he nominated to go look for Naruto. And it wasn't because of the Akatsuki. It was to go and check on everybody. And that's where I think people get that confused when they hear the story of Itachi. So, segue done.
He has so much trauma instead of prodigy. He was the master, you know? And he kept the trauma to himself. You know, he could have went through and, you know, it took Sasuke. He could have, but he thought to himself, what is the life on the run to a child? And then I have to go through and explain to him that mom and dad were going to cause a coup, and I'm working as a double agent. Or, you know, he would have had to raise him with hate for the lead. Itachi having to do that, you know, to protect his sibling. You know, learning why he done everything he done. You know, that was something that really cemented him. Because, I like the drip on him. But you could always tell. The first time we ever see the black flames of Amaterasu is whenever Jiraiya steps in.
Yeah.
And something else. And then you go through and, you know, him having these sacred weapons and stuff. Him being born with them, no less.
Yeah.
His potential to be a Hokage. I love how the third Hokage put it. At the age of 7, he did not think as a child. He thought as a Hokage.
Yeah.
Itachi would have been, in my opinion, would have been the greatest Hokage. He would have been. He would have been above all of it. Let's say there was no Nine Tails attack and stuff. Let's say Itachi went through, he put his hat in the ring for Hokage. Because people would have nominated him. And he would have won. Okay, he wouldn't have had the Mangekyo. But the first time the village was attacked, that was the thing that Itachi truly loved. That would have awakened his Mangekyo, and that would an angry Uchiha on a warpath we've seen.
I feel like he would have been the most balanced. Like, he would have been the most balanced, level-headed, because he did play that double agent role so well.
Oh, yes.
And the point I was going to make with that, like I said, I stay quiet. I'm just going to say it here, so, like, when you watch the breakdown, you kind of understand what I was talking about with Itachi. Check that out if you wanted to. But the way he raised Sasuke, allowing him to hate him, he carried all of that guilt and that burden, and he allowed himself to die by his brother's hand. And he didn't want to until he knew his brother was able to do it without him. So he was always there as the bad guy, as the primary goal for Sasuke to get stronger so he can protect the ones he loves, but also to die by his brother's hand due to the guilt of his family. And that was why I was jittery over here. I just wanted to get that out. Like,
he sacrificed everything. He, that was one thing that made me mad in the anime was whenever it showed, him doing the massacre, and it showed Obito being the one who killed his girl. Whenever in the manga and in the light novel, it was him, dude, and he done it in the most
beautiful way.
A beautiful way, bro. He literally
cared about her, bro.
He let her live out an entire life. He had her mentally die in seconds, but to her it felt like
her whole life.
They
happy
life,
happy ending,
bro.
Like, that was the only.
Dude, like whenever I found that out, bro, dude, I cried, man, because that's something I would do if I had to go through, and I had no choice.
You gotta give it to them at least.
You gotta give the loving
and like I said, I'm totally gonna thumbnail my past video, so you obviously that breakdown. I'm not gonna take too much time on it because he pretty much covered every detail that I would have said. But he did mention the Nara clan, which was my number 2. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about it because he also mentioned Hokage, and I've always had the running joke that Shikamaru should have been Hokage. The only reason I say that is because he has shown time and time again that he is smart enough to do it. He's just lazy. Like, I'm a busy person, but I'm gonna find some sleep in between everything. Like, and I think that's where I resonated with him. But I did want to point that out because, like, he is like overly smart, and that was the only reason they found out. He did have the highest scores. And he was the only, he was promoted before everybody else. Every time. No, he wasn't a prodigy like the Uchihas and stuff like that, but he was a prodigy for his clan, and his clan had secrets just like every other clan. Strategically, he would have been better fit. I mean, that's why he's the right-hand man, and I make that joke all the time as well. You can troll me in the comments, I don't care. I'm still going to say Shikamaru because he has also been Hokage in Naruto. But, like, other than that, it's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
You saw his chivalry, whenever it came to the fight against Samari, and, you saw his laziness. He's like, I really don't want to go. Yeah. And then, in the Chunin exams, whatever, oh, God, what's the name of Kakashi's dog?
Pakun?
Yeah, Pakun. Pakun just runs up and bites him. Ah! You weren't going to sleep.
Like,
no, I was just trying to avoid everything, dude. I love that. And then,
he's like, yo, I don't want drama. I don't want stress. He's just trying to get it done and go.
The reason that Shikamaru is one of my favorite characters is because, dude, this kid is a genius. He's like, I sat there and, I'd done all this, but I made it competitive. Because if he knew I was testing,
he wouldn't do it. If it wasn't meant to be, yeah.
And then, another thing I liked about Shikamaru is he was Naruto's friend. You saw him do those jabs at Naruto, but then you go to his backstory and stuff, you see him, talk to his dad. He's goofy and stuff, He goes, but I wouldn't mind being friends with him. He's like, then you should do that.
And going from the Naruto clan to the Hyuga clan, so Neji is just, his demeanor is what got me. And then from his demeanor, you learn his story or his side of things later by the end of all that. When Naruto finally gives him his wake up call, you're just like, okay, always the full circle. Would have saved that story a long time ago if they would have just sat him down. He was of age. He knew what was going on. His trauma was easily fixed, which showed how understanding he was. He wouldn't have even been mad if it happened that day. He'd have been like, hey, that's our job. They still follow their ceremonial gestures, but at the end of it, they don't use the curse mark anymore. That's what I'm trying to say is they did away with the curses, and it's family as a whole. He was the one that made a difference in his family, and that was the good point. He was the prodigy, but was never given his respect because he was not of the upper class.
Neji had a good story. Now I won't lie. Whenever I first seen him, I didn't care much for him, and then his fight with Hinata, I hated him. I hated him for why he done it, so I started to hate him less, but you see how much Neji's calmed down if you're not special, which in the end, yes, Neji was right, because Naruto's the son of the fourth Hokage, all that, but you do got Shikamaru. I'm sorry, bro, dude, anytime Shikamaru fights, gotta give him props.
You would call Neji, but he's dead.
Yeah, you would call Neji, but even then, dude, I would still call Shikamaru over Neji, because, dude, I'm sorry, bro. How he took out Hidan, that was
boy,
cold.
Hey, I'm telling you, that's why my boy, gang. I already told you my three. So, what's your last one?
My last one would be Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. He is my dude.
He dead. Hey, Dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
Hi, Dad.
One of the
Thank you for naming your son after ramen noodles and getting them famous.
Yes, sir. But stated by Kishimoto himself to be on par with the first Hokage, who is considered to be a god of shinobi.
Not an actual god.
Not an actual god. But, a god of shinobi, and you're looking at it, and you really see what that means. A lot of these characters, he had a fully on-site order. He was always hyped up, and then when Naruto first meets him, I was with Naruto a little bit. I was like, all right, yeah, Naruto, give him your peace of mind. And then, you learn that Naruto was never told anything. Minato done this to, one, protect the village and to protect you, because you are the son of the fourth Hokage. Y'all may think this is a little bit weird. His taste in women, I like Kushina. Kushina is definitely one of the waifus from Naruto, because for one,
she on the back.
For one, you have whenever she got Kurama, it wasn't, she was terrified, whenever she was actually able to communicate with Kurama, and she stated to him that was her body, that he was basically living there because she allowed him to. You seen the feistiness of her and everything, and then,
and she was a powerful woman too.
And then, you have the loyalty that Minato had. I mean, Kushina constantly was yelling at him and stuff, threatening to beat the crap out of him. But whenever it came down to it and she got kidnapped, it wasn't the Anbu who came and got her. It was 12-year-old Minato Namikaze.
He said, what's up?
How he acts as a dad, whenever he first pops up and, in the war and, he sees Sakura healing Naruto, he's like, so, you're Naruto's girlfriend, huh?
Nope.
Dude, he never wanted the position of Hokage.
Yeah, he was chilling.
That was never his goal, dude. In all honesty, bro.
It's over me, fatherhood. Yeah, what's up? But before that, you know, it was just seeing the father figure come out, other than just hearing the stories of these great tales of his father. You actually got to meet him for that moment, and it was like, yeah, he didn't waste the time. Like he actually, they were in a war, but he made up for it with his little moments and stuff. For me, but it was the protection side of things. Like, he was there for everybody. There was humility with his actions. It wasn't like he was just putting on a show. Like, he lived that life. He was a family man first, but he was ready to ride whenever they needed him. And like that to me, even his job was the whole village. Like, that whole village was his family.
It was something else, you know. You really, you know, that's some props I can give Lord Third. You know, whenever the village was under attack, you know, it wasn't go get Lord Fourth. It was, I'm dealing with this. Lord Fourth is having a child.
Yeah.
And then, you know, another thing is you saw, like, the connection he had with his team. That was another thing, you know. He took his team as his children, you know. You had Obito. Okay, dude. Whenever he found out Obito was the masked man, dude, that was a heartbreaking moment for him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a moment that you're gonna have, you know. It's gonna be, if I had gotten there in this amount of time, you know, like, hopefully you don't lose your daughter. Like, I'm not saying that. Like,
no bad omens here. No bad omens.
Yeah, like, no bad omens. What I'm
talking about, to school or something. Like,
yeah, you know, she's gonna go to school, and you know, there's gonna be, you know, you're gonna have that bad feeling one day, be like, you know, I don't want to send her to school, but she needs to go to school, and then, you know, she's gonna come home and she's got a black eye or something. You know, it's one of those moments. That's gonna
like, I should have been there. I've had those moments. I mean,
everyone to understand each other. Like, whenever, you know, Obito was explaining, you know, like, how he could never like Kakashi, and, you know, Minato went through, and he's like, let me tell you something. And, you know, he tells him the story of the White Fang, you know, explaining why Kakashi is the way he is. That, you know, he's like, if you remember back, you know, Kakashi was different. You know, he was like Shikamaru, but
it's like they all lined up. You know, the three for every squad always kind of resembled the last squad. And that's just the beautiful part of it. That's pretty much how this is gonna go. We're gonna get the other opinions from the other two every once in a while, depending on who shows up to the house. Like, share, comment, subscribe. We'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.